Check, 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 check. Um,
I can't hear you. See if it's just my volume.
If we could go ahead and get to our seats. That means you, Elliot. Oh, you should have seen him at the beach cleanup on the weekend. He wore those shorts. It was disgusting. Oh. Is the mic on?
It's on. He's nice to you. I had to sit up here by myself. I'm on probation. No, not over there, not many. Well, Gary?
Why don't we go ahead and get started? This is a Council of Governments meeting, August 3rd, 2021. It is approximately 4 p.m. And if we could all stand for a pledge to the flag. Over here in the left.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you all very much for being here. And for those that don't know, my name is John Chappie. I'm Mayor of Bradenton Beach, and unfortunately, it's my turn to host, so we'll try to make it as painless as possible. We appreciate everybody being here today. I think the first thing we'll do is, first thing on the agenda, of course, is hot topics. You know, I really didn't prepare anything for hot topics in Bradenton Beach. You know, it is what it is. We you know, the red tide, we're going to have reports on that. That's pretty tough out there. And of course, you know, parking issues are always a concern. And there we go.
That's that.
So thank you for that tune. We appreciate it. So with that, we'll just get right into a presentation. And the first presentation we have is from Jeff Sadaka. He is with a program here called All Clams on Deck, Restoration of Estuaries and Growing Coastal Economy. Jeff, do you want to go ahead and make your way up to the mic?
Sure.
I thought this would be interesting to talk about. You know, we have a lot going on in our community, and one of the top things is always is our environment. And as you all know, we're one of the few areas that have the 3 estuaries in our area, and it's so important that we preserve and protect these for future generations. So with that, Jeff, go ahead.
Okay, it's working. And in fact, Mayor, first of all, thank you for inviting me. This topic actually really does touch your hot topic today, which is obviously red tide. First of all, I'm here in lieu of, or it was Ed Childs, who a lot of you know, asked me to be here because he's out of town. This discussion is really for the Gulf Shellfish Institute, which Ed was one of the founders of. I'm doing some advisory for. I'm going to just kind of look into some notes because, as I said, Ed was going to do this. So the topic, it says, presentation on bivalve initiative, All Clams on Deck, which is just a brand name that we kind of came up, catchy brand name we came up with. But it's really about restoring estuaries and growing the coastal economy. Oh, it's here. All right, so, and I have this. I think that probably everybody in this room understands that we have a general problem, and that problem is not just red tide, and it's not just manatees dying in seagrass. Those are symptoms of a general problem that we have, which is an overload of nutrients coming into our Gulf, and an overload of algae that's killing seagrass and just generally fouling our environment. There are some people that are perhaps a little more radical than me that think that we are within a few years of not having our environment be the kind of place that's going to draw visitors, draw new people, and be able to support business. I don't know if we're that close, but it certainly is going to happen at some point. We know that our coastal communities are really what cause or support the growth and the tourism in this state. So, oh, I can see it here. This actually is a spin-out of a Gulf Shellfish Institute, which was started by Ed and some other people, including Angela Collins from the local Florida Sea Grant. And I'll tell you a little bit about myself quickly so you know why I'm here. I'm the CEO of one of the largest seafood companies in the United States, but more pertinent to this, I am a founder and a director of the largest international organization for certifying sustainable aquaculture. We have over 3,000 facilities certified around the world. Those are farms and hatcheries, feed mills, and processing plants. Unfortunately, almost all of them are overseas because we have so many issues with getting aquaculture started in this country. But it's something I'm working on, and we have this particular project here in Manatee and Sarasota counties can actually become a watershed for getting aquaculture and restoration started in this country the way I'm seeing it elsewhere. I wasn't aware of how many people were going to be here, but I have about a dozen of these or 10 of these packages, and anybody that doesn't get a package and wants one, all you have to do is leave me a card. I'll get it to you digitally. It was actually prepared for a roundtable yesterday that Congressman Buchanan gave on water quality. And it has some overview. It also gets pretty deep in the weeds on the science. So if anybody wants to see that, there are some here. This is also a report for the Florida Association of Counties. I believe it was given by one of your commissioners. This report to the Florida Association of Counties was presented by a Manatee County Commissioner. There's copies here. And for those of you that don't get a full presentation, you have in front of you the cover page, the brief that starts out. So, algae as a result of, or algae blooms as a result of runoff, whether it be agricultural runoff or runoff from our lawns or anything we're doing to put nutrients, excess nutrients in the water, are doing more than just cause red tide. If you look at what's happening in Indian River, for example, and it's going to get worse and worse, and as we all know, Piney Point didn't do anything to help that. In fact, all it did is probably bring us to where we would be a year or two from now. We're there now. So there's a lot of science, and a lot of that science is in here that shows the bivalves, the replenishment of bivalves in our estuaries do three things. They remove algae, the algae blooms that are actually removing the excess nutrients that are coming. So these nutrients that are coming into our bays and our Gulf are causing algae blooms. The algae blooms then block the sunlight, seagrasses die. The algae blooms actually block themselves so that they start to die below. They fall to the bottom, they cause oxygen deprivation in our environment. And it's unknown at this point how much of that also impacts red tide, but we know that it does. Red tide, no different than other algae, consume nitrogen. Oh, I have to do it here. On this sheet that they prepared for Ed, it says biological mitigation strategies using nature's toolbox. So the basis of our program here and what we're looking for support for is there are all kinds of high-tech strategies to begin to mitigate some of these problems. And as a practical matter, a lot of the science and a lot of the discussion is based on how did we get here and how do we stop increasing the amount of nutrients going into the environment. But there's very little being talked about in terms of what can we do to reverse it or partially reverse it. This program that we're working on is not going to be the be-all, end-all. It is an opportunity to do something to reverse it partially, slow down the process, and maybe pick some certain areas that we can use as demonstration areas to show that if this is done properly, it's not only a matter of stopping the excess nutrients, but we could reverse the damage that's been done. As I said, in here, for anybody that wants to look, there's a lot of science that proves two things. Clams and oysters can filter up to 50 gallons of water a day. And of course, we're talking about millions and millions and millions of clams. And in the filtering of the water, they're going to remove a significant portion of the algae. The other thing they do is once they've removed that algae, they deposit them in the substrate, which becomes a fertilizer or applies the nutrients to the roots of the seagrass. For a long time, the government, our federal government, NOAA, had some idea that clams and seagrass did not really coexist very well. What we found out is it's just the opposite. Where we plant clams, seagrass comes. Now, as I say, the science is here. Of the probably 20 articles I have in here, they were gleaned from 100 articles. Some of them are just stories in newspapers, and some of them are highly technical studies done by universities. I have no problem finding another 100. What I had a problem finding is any plan to do anything about it. Any tool, like we said, to do something. We know it works. So we put together this idea that if we can begin to pick some areas that in our environment, in Manatee County, in Sarasota County, in fact, really what Ed was talking about is everything from Tampa Bay down to Charlotte Harbor, and get some experimental areas where we can plant clams. They don't have to be in areas where we can harvest them and they become for human use. All they have to be is areas that we can monitor and begin to look at what that does in terms of water clarity and what it does in terms of seagrass regeneration. We know that right now the public we've known about this problem. Everybody in this room probably knows it's there. The public is not that aware of it, but they are becoming aware of it because of red tide and manatee deaths. Unfortunately, the best time to address something is when it's a hot topic. Well, it's a hot topic all over the world. I can find stories about manatee deaths and red tide in newspapers in Montana today. So we began to look at this, and we discovered that the native clam from here in Florida, which is essentially the same animal as the clams from up north, has a slight variation. And that variation, there's a positive and a negative. The positive is that they grow much faster and they survive much better than the clams that really base the market up north. The negative is they have very little shelf life in a refrigerator going out to restaurants. But we already have developed a market for our Florida clams as a frozen product. And that market right now is dominated by imports from Vietnam and China. If you go into a supermarket now and you want to buy frozen clams, that's what you're going to find. And we're totally convinced that if we put a clam from Florida on the market with an American flag on it, we're going to take that market over. So what we found is we found a project that is both a restoration project, let's see what I do here, a hybrid restoration project and an economic growth project. We can create a new industry here in Florida. We have some clam industry in Crystal River. It's based on the northern clam. It's limited. We understand that there are 1 million acres of certified waters in the state of Florida, most of them here on the West Coast. Certified means they can be harvested for human consumption. So, let's see what's next. I went blank. All right, yeah, I'm not to that yet. If you don't mind, I'm going to just check my notes for a moment. All right, so I'd like to talk about a little bit how this works. When algae are blooming and growing from the excess nutrients that are put in, we have three things. We have carbon, phosphorus, nitrogen, phosphorus, and carbon. As I said earlier, the nitrogen and phosphorus are fertilizers. They fertilize the algae bloom. The clams can clean up the algae bloom. The oysters can clean up the algae bloom. And what they do is, then their metabolic byproducts go into the substrate, and they fertilize the roots of the algae. The carbon is very interesting because we all know that there's a big push now that we're going to grow a lot of forests and we're going to sequester a lot of carbon and take some of the carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, and that's a great idea. The problem with it is all the carbon that's taken out of the atmosphere by trees, for example, will eventually wind back in the atmosphere. The trees are going to be cut, or they're going to die, or mushrooms are going to convert them and rot them. So it's a cycle. We will reduce the amount of carbon, but we won't take it out. What bivalves do is they convert that carbon to calcium carbonate. Calcium carbonate becomes in their shells. It gets built into shell, and it's sequestered forever. It's sequestered forever unless we do something to take it out again. So, as I say, the science is here. Once we start planting clams in the areas that we believe they will grow best, that are not necessarily for commercial use, they're just inshore areas that we think are viable for seagrass growth, they become self-propagating. If it works, the project just goes on and on and on its own. We had a talk with somebody with an organization in Sarasota that has some below surface land. They own the land. And they had been talking to the federal government about a mangrove restoration project, and what the Corps of Engineers told them is, oh yeah, that's a great idea. We want to do that, but not now. And my experience has been with the Corps is it's always not now. The interesting thing is that if we plant clams legally, which we can do, and they bring back the seagrass, they're not asking the Corps of Engineers. They're just going to do it. And, it's naturally what they do. A big part, and the reason I'm here today, we need the support, is there are mitigation credits available for seagrass and mangrove. And we're asking the state, the governor, and I don't know what part of it the federal government plays, to extend the seagrass mitigation credits to include bivalves, because the science says you bring in bivalves, you get more seagrass, there are more mitigation credits. And we just think the whole thing makes sense for everything. We know, based on the market that I deal with, that we can put 2 million clams on an acre if we go into the commercial areas, the areas that are open for U.S. consumption certification. 2 million clams on an acre, 200 acres, 200 farmers go in business, and we bring in several tens of millions of dollars a year into our counties in income, revenue, and jobs. And those jobs are not just for the clams, because then the clams have to go to processing plants, and they get processed, and they get frozen, and so forth. So, our belief here is that this is a win-win. Now, I do a lot of aquaculture around the world. We sell around $250 million worth of goods a year, just my company. 80% of it is aquaculture. And by the way, I want to make a point that most people probably don't know. 91% of all the seafood that we eat in this country is imported. And that's a crime. Seafood is one of the biggest contributors to our national balance of trade problems. And the reason is, it's just, there's been so much regulation, particularly from the federal government, so many difficulties getting things going, that it just hasn't happened here. I would say that 80% of the people that I know all around the world, whether it be in China, Vietnam, Ecuador, Colombia, that are running projects in these countries and exporting product to us here, are Americans who came out of American universities and left and went there because they cannot work here. We have the ideal situation if we're going to try to break that cycle. Bivalves are the only aquaculture that I know about that don't require expensive mitigation in order to not have a negative impact on the environment. If I go salmon farming, which we do offshore, we've got to take care of the waste. Shrimp farming on land, we have discharge that we have to clean up to go into the estuary. All of it takes mitigation. A lot of it is very expensive. Bivalves, on the other hand, are exactly the opposite. From the moment we put them into the environment and begin to grow them for human consumption, they're having a positive effect on the environment. We don't have to feed them. We're not putting any nutrients in the water. They're taking nutrients out of the water. So I don't really understand what this group does. I'll find out after. As I said, I was kind of spaced in here. But I know that what I'm supposed to be doing is talking about getting support for us to get these programs off the ground. There are right now, two focuses. One is we've asked for a $15 million NOAA grant for Tampa Bay to Charlotte Harbor for a proof of concept here. And the second, I think is a state issue, which means the people here can have influence on it, and that is asking the governor to extend the seagrass mitigation project to include bivalves. And that's where we are. The science, as I said, is here. You can see it here. Anybody that doesn't get one and wants one, leave your card with me and I'll get it to you digitally. And thank you.
Well, Jeff, I really appreciate you being here today. Last minute, of course, but we appreciate it. You did a great job. Does anybody have any questions for Jeff? I will let you know, Bradenton Beach, we've had a clam. We've put our planted some clams out off our shores, and it's from last report I heard, they're doing great out there. No big surprise. It's a proven way to use filtration to filtrate and clean our waters out there. So I think Anna Maria is looking at doing something up there, which is great, and we're looking to do it again as well down in Bradenton Beach area. So,
Mayor, the pictures that were up here
right,
of those big clams,
yes,
they were your clams.
right, yeah, thank you.
2.5 years, they're this big, and once they're this big, they're just doing our job for us. We don't even have to go out seeding.
This mitigation, this could save a lot of time and a lot of money to get this certified as well. So we need, in our request to Tallahassee this year, when we're lobbying up there, we need to get this done now. We don't want to wait. Questions? Commissioner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So my question, I guess, would be to Dr. Hopes is we're receiving, up to this point, $100 million from the state and money to mitigate, Piney Point fallout. Is this $15 million something that could come from that seed money?
I would prefer to take it from the second tranche next year with the legislature. But I don't see why not, because I think we've looked at seagrasses and things like that as part of the overall Piney Point closure. So I think it's certainly worth the effort while we have DEP's attention.
Right, that's sort of the direction I was going with it. And it doesn't make sense to start moving forward on seagrass mitigation until we know that we have a healthy bay, obviously.
Right.
So this would be part of that.
Right, very good point.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
May I ask Dr. Hope
Go
a
ahead,
question?
please.
If you're saying from the second tranche, this is a project that doesn't take $15 million to do all at once. We just need a little bit of money to get it started. We need to pick a few places. I have already talked to several organizations, including Selby Gardens, and I know that the city of Anna Maria, and there are 2 or 3 more that are willing to give us their areas to plant. And because it's private land, I think Spanish Point also, because it's private land, we still have to get some permitting, but we don't have to go through the kind of permitting that we're talking about. And if this was available, big money was available in the second tranche, we could do a proof of concept for small money to help support that.
What the commissioner is referring to is we were fortunate for the legislature to fund what they saw as the first installment for Piney Point closure, which is $100 million, with the anticipation of another $100 million in the next fiscal year.
Okay. I think our big thing is the mitigation credits. You know, I think we can raise the money from private individuals to do our pilots. I know we can, so.
Now, that brings up an important point, because we actually are working with regards to mitigation and credits with regards to the port related to Piney Point. So it's probably worth a follow-up conversation around that.
Port Manatee?
Yes, sir.
All right, so the way I got involved originally is Dave Sanford from Port Manatee and Ed Childs asked me to get involved, so
Okay.
they're way ahead already, and I'm sure you know that.
All right. Any other questions? If not, I believe we have 2 callers. No callers? No callers? Okay, we're good.
Good job, Mayor.
Yeah, right. Took care of that. Thank you very much. Then the next agenda item would be number 3 of affordable housing. Nothing was handed out, but I'm sure somebody has some discussion.
Well, I recalled, I thought it was School Board Member Kennedy, but so you're going to do it?
I don't think there's anything specific for this. I think what the discussion was last time was, you know, it's an issue that involves everyone, not just the county, but all the individual municipalities, the school board for teachers, and et cetera. So the discussion was, let's just leave it on as kind of an ongoing concern agenda item. In the event anyone had any kind of updates or suggestions, like for instance, we're starting to look at community land trusts, and we're making it further down the road with that than we have in the past. We're talking to Frank Wells over at Bright to create a way of creating a land trust, which we currently don't have in Manatee County. And obviously, to the extent municipalities are interested in learning about that, we can put you in touch with Frank. He's gonna, I believe, handle our pilot program. I don't know if we ever formally voted on that, but it's certainly something we've been pushing towards. And, you know, I think the more people who do this, the more areas we have, because the biggest issue with community land trust is having the land. Everything else is, you know, kind of takes care of itself. Community land trusts are a way of selling single-family homes to workforce, housing, eligible people. And the way it becomes affordable isn't so much you're building cheaper homes, it's that you're not selling the land. It's almost as if you, for lack of a better term, I know it's a negative connotation sometimes, but almost as if you think of a mobile home park. Someone's buying the house, they're paying a nominal pad rent for the land, and that makes it a little more affordable. That's how community land trust works. So it's something we're working on with the county, and you know, you can do it. It doesn't have to be a contiguous parcel of land. So it's something we certainly, I think, would be open to speaking to individual municipalities if there's other pieces of land, and any way we can work on an interlocal agreement to be able to all work together, so we're not dual tracking and overstepping each other. It'll be much more manageable under one roof. So, but that's really the only main development, other than the fact that hopefully the county as a whole will finally pass accessory dwelling units in the very, very near future. I believe this month, end of this month. And that's really the only development on a county level. But this wasn't a topic specific. It was more just open-ended if anyone had any updates. Yeah.
Well, Commissioner, I think to add to that, one of the things that Manatee County is doing is if we sort of accelerated our review of county-owned parcels to look at those parcels that could be made available in the land trust as single-family homes, those parcels that are a large enough tract that could be multifamily, and we even have a few. We don't quite have the land out east that the city of Bradenton has, but we do have some that can be slated, and one actually with Habitat Humanity I think it's in the Onico area where it's multiple single-family homes. So we're looking at how we can go through that inventory with a strategy in mind to really work towards workforce housing. I had an interesting conversation with a group from California that's doing the new hotel related to the convention center, and they're looking to take assets that they're disposing of in California and focus on workforce housing. And so we had a discussion last week about how we're looking at our land holdings to make available for that purpose. So that's where we're moving, and the commission has a meeting coming up, a work session, I think, on land trusts.
Well, we had.
I think we've got another one, another proposal.
Bill, go ahead. Yeah.
I would like to speak to you about that. I'm the representative from Bradenton for affordable housing. So would you get with me or representative about this?
Yeah, of course. I'm always available to talk about affordable housing.
Thank
Yeah, we'll grab coffee or something when we're both downtown. I can fill you in on what we learned during our session.
All right, thank you.
Chairman Ball, you had a question, I believe?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. You know, Bill, thank you for making the statement that you did, because I know when this came up first in our COG meeting that we had hoped that it would give us an opportunity for all of the municipalities and the county to really work together to solve this issue that we have of workforce, quote, affordable housing. And I'd also like to put into that veterans as well. You know, I mean, we need to be looking at how to serve veterans in our county as well. So great topic for today. I'm glad it was on there, and I hope that the municipalities and the county can really come together and come up with some solutions. I know the city of Bradenton does a lot in that regard. So thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
I believe we have one caller.
Yes, sir, we do now. Thank you, Mayor Chappie. We also have Charlie Kennedy as well, who would like to speak.
Okay.
Mr. Kennedy?
Oh, hey, thanks very much, Seth. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I just had a quick comment, and Dr. Hopes, I appreciate the call back to me. I just wanted to revisit a point from the last time Council of Government met, and that was a discussion about possibly forming a subcommittee. So I would just like to make, just put an idea out there, just a suggestion that it sounds like myself from the school board, Commissioner Cruz and Councilman Sanders may form the basis of that subcommittee. And of course, we can all discuss that as a Council of Governments group. I just want to put that idea out there and offer myself up to serve on that subcommittee if it is formed. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Speaker. Somebody else? One more speaker?
Yes, sir, we have two public comments. And the first will be 445. 445, please, star 6.
Good afternoon. For the record, Glenn Gibolina, affordable housing. Touchy subject with me. We don't have any. So, you know, and several factors cause this is one, is the Sadowski funds. So as you know, that's been cut by 50%. And I haven't heard anything from our legislators how we're going to make that up. You know, they took it for climate change and sewer, which has nothing to do with affordable housing. So I'm disappointed in that direction. The second thing I'm sure everyone's aware of, but you have not seen the results yet, but you will, is the eviction moratorium has been lifted. So there are a few hundred eviction notices sitting at the 12th Circuit right now. So that tsunami is coming down the road. And we're going to have a lot more homeless in the next several months. Vanessa, thank you for that plug for the veterans. I know we're moving in the right direction with that, and hopefully we'll continue to do that. So we're in a tough spot here. I know we've got a couple of hundred veterans that are homeless, and hopefully we'll get the jail moving in that direction, but there's more to be done. Statewide, we have over 90,000 students that are homeless. I just got the numbers from the school district, and this school year, we have 830 homeless students. 1 out of every 54 students are homeless. That is unacceptable. Unacceptable. And we've had zero for new transitional housing beds that will help the homeless, and there are only going to be more of those as the evictions come up. You know, the price of real estate, I don't have to tell anybody, it's gone up 21%. Well, guess what? Those taxes go up 21%. And those landlords have been stuck in that moratorium at that set rate for the rent. They're going to come out like bears. They're going to be evicting, throwing people out, going to market rents, and those Alice folks and those blue-collar workers are going to be left on the street. And the municipalities and the county has not moved fast enough for transitional housing. You know, City of Bradenton's got the 5 acres over by the water treatment plant, surplus property in the county as well. You know, these tiny homes and small shelters, Carol, the pallet shelters, they, you know, there was an alternative. Those should already be set in place. We have none. All the beds are going to be at capacity, and it's only going to get worse. You know, I think we should take that money, a lot of that money that we have in the stabilization fund, and stabilize our housing market. So the tsunami is coming. The landlords are fed up. They're done. They're going to go back to market rent, and the blue collar workers are going to squeeze on. So be prepared to see some sleeping blankets in front of your city hall and the county buildings. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Glenn. Appreciate it. One more?
Yes, sir. 605, 605.
Go ahead, speaker.
Sure, thank you. Andrew Griffin, Manatee County. So, yes, on the topic of affordable housing, like as Glenn said, we were together yesterday and went to a spot. Apparently, we're taking schoolhouses right now and are able to take them down to the bones, fix them up, and set them on a lot, cheap. But because of our inspection rules, we're having to ship those properties that could be used for affordable housing to Pasco and Pinellas. So, and I did a video on my Facebook Live, so if anybody wants to go and look at it, you can. These are beautiful structures that should be very easily converted into housing for veterans, housing for first responders. You know, there's a lot of stuff we could be doing if we think outside of the box and find a way to make it work. I just feel like, you know, the people of the county are getting the screws. And I would like to find better solutions than, you know, just not doing anything. And this idea that we need to have a company out of California come in here with our land trust, I want to keep that money with local people in this county that is going to spend the money that they make off this stuff in this county. Also, with this Community Solutions 360 being the only person that's being able to benefit from some of our initiatives here in the county is ridiculous. There has to be more people. We're not going to have one beneficiary of our county resources for affordable housing, which you guys already know how I feel about that whole deal that just went down that we spoke out against. So I think this county can do so much better, and we're not doing enough. And these are little things that we can do that won't cost the county a dime. So with that, I thank you all for your time. I'm glad that you guys are getting together for these meetings. I think they're very good. I am concerned about, Glenn and I both met with the sheriff yesterday. We are very concerned about kids in this county, primarily the 830 kids that are now homeless in this county. And what are we going to do for housing for them as well? We have alarming numbers here. We've got to do better. We've got to start thinking outside of the box for solutions. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Andrea.
That's all. Thank you, Mayor Chappie.
Thank you. Commissioner Whitmore, please.
Yeah, to get back on track, I think last time I heard there was about 2,000 homeless kids in Manatee County during school. So if we went down to 800, that would be surprising. That seems like an awful big drop. For the last 9 months, I've been involved in a group called Emergency Housing since this COVID, and we've met for 9 months now. And now's the time where we're all kind of ready. So far, the county has distributed to landlords about $2.7 million, but we have much more that we can distribute. It's just for a while, people were saved because you couldn't be evicted. But on this group, it's United Way, Manatee Community Foundation, Sarasota Community Foundation, Women's Resource, the county staff with the CARES Act, Ms. Shirley Pearson, Information Outreach, Season for Sharing 211, and many other organizations, school board. And what we have, what we're developed is a process so we don't duplicate. What we encourage all you, when you have any citizens, like I told the board this week, I had a citizen in Colony Cove that was wandering around because she was late with her electric bill. I had her call 211, Season of a Sharing, paid her electric bill. There are many organizations that did receive some monies that will help. So I would ask you to ask any of your citizens in Manatee County and Sarasota, since we have the town of Longboat Key here, to call 211. The average wait time is about 2.5 minutes now. But we will try to get you help. We have food banks and everything else, but the best source is 211. Thank you.
Thank you for that information, Commissioner, and thanks for the County Commission for doing what they're doing right now with this and trying to make it better for all of us. Do we have any other comments?
I'll just clarify.
Please.
I just want to clarify something for Andrea, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Hobbs, but the conversation with the California group was not because they're handling our community land trust. They are not handling our community land trust. That's a group out of Pinellas County, which is part of our local vendor list anyway, and they're extremely experienced. This was just an independent conversation implying that private sector developers are starting to focus on workforce housing. It was more of a positive comment that maybe we can get some people in here to facilitate and assist us, not that those California people in and of themselves are facilitating anything other than building a very not-for-profit hotel here in town. So it was just a coincidence of the conversation, Andrea. It was not implying anything about the community land trust.
That's correct, Commissioner Cruz. It was a private enterprise that is liquidating assets in California. And because of the experience they've been having in Manatee County with regards to this project, they're very interested in moving those assets and investing them in Florida specifically, and Manatee County was the topic of the conversation of them investing large sums of capital in workforce housing in our community.
Good.
Yeah, wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, Commissioner Cruz. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, Mary Foreman, School Board. Is there any appetite to, since we're all together, starting that subcommittee rather than waiting 3 more months?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think there is interest.
Charlie, George.
I'd be more than happy to be on that subcommittee if that's what we're planning and people want me on it. I'll happily do it.
Bill Sanders would be
Likewise.
great.
Bill? Okay. Who's going to take the lead on it? Somebody from the county will get everybody organized, get some names?
I'm chair.
Okay. I'll be happy to help Commissioner Cruz
Yeah,
Thank
there you
you.
go.
to get it organized.
Right.
All right. We appreciate that. Thank you for volunteering.
Who's on it?
Mr. Hopes is going to get everybody together. George is definitely on it. And
If you're interested, just
And
send me an
school board
email and we'll
members.
get it compiled.
Bill Sanders and Charlie Kennedy.
Yeah.
yeah, contact the administrative office and, if you're interested. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If we're done with that one, we'll go to Dr. Hopes with the current status of Red Tide.
Okay, well, first I'd really like to thank all of you for joining together to ensure that my first 4 months were challenging. We started off with Piney Point, a budget, capital improvement plan, COVID outbreak, Hurricane Elsa, and now Red Tide. So I don't know what you have planned for me next, but let me go ahead and give you an update. If I look tired, it's because I've been through all that. So we're gonna show you a video that we sent out, I think to most of you in the press on Friday with a brief update of Red Tide, and then I'll get into a little bit more substance. Go ahead.
Hit play.
It's riveting.
We're getting so technical.
Administrator, Dr. Scott Hurd.
Nick?
Oh, that's priceless. I don't think that's, there you go.
High concentrations of red tide have been detected along Longboat Key,
It's okay.
Tula Beach, and
Oh, you froze again. It's Chris's fault. We love.
That was funny, I gotta admit.
I like that Daffy Duck's voice.
It didn't take long to let you know what's next, did it?
Uh-oh, here comes Nick.
It's okay.
I thought I was gonna save time.
You are, just give him a
Why don't you put her on another computer?
I thought the tie was gonna be embarrassing for you, but,
Oh, no.
yeah.
tie.
I'm just kidding.
What to expect next?
Well, while they're playing with that,
Talk about something.
Commissioner Van Osterbridge and I took a ride out to Longboat Key, and met Tom, and we drove the beach and the like, and we identified areas where we could be of assistance, and then I drive back to the office and I pull into the parking space and I get out and I'm going, God, what is that I smell? And I'm just like looking around. And I realized it was all the dead fish and stuff that got splattered around in the inside of my county Tahoe. So I kind of left it in the garage for a while.
That's why I let you drive.
Are we gonna be able to get this, or should I go to Piney Point first? Got it?
Cross your fingers. That part looks good. Nobody's open there. We'll get it.
He looks tired there.
Yeah, do Piney Point.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and go to Piney Point. I'll give you an update of kind of where we are with Piney Point.
It's no big deal.
You gotta move the slides.
Yeah, we know. Or just give it verbally.
That sounded better though, or no?
Let's see if you sound like Daffy.
All right, forget that.
Daffy Duck.
They'll work on it. All right, Piney Point. I'm gonna give you a real quick overview. Am I able to click this or? There we go. All right, this you all seen. I'm gonna go through it real quickly, but I can't read that update. All right, basically, what's interesting is I was getting like regular updates from DEP, and I think all of you were too.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it shifted to red tide. So I don't know about you guys, but I hadn't gotten a Piney Point update in a couple of weeks. So as you know, we started off with about 450 million gallons in that southernmost pond. It got down to about 205 gallons. With the rain, it's up to about 258 million gallons, but they've been recirculating. The kind of important point about what's going on is that DEP is backing off a little bit. They've now sort of turned it back over to HRK and turned the screws up on HRK. They're still monitoring it. We are still monitoring it. And they're basically ratcheting down on HRK to deliver to them a plan for how they plan on managing this. They are within a couple of weeks in the bankruptcy court about being able to get it somewhat under control. As you know, the legislature provided $100 million in funding. The monies to date that have been spent are not coming out of that $100 million. I think there was a story in the press that was about 35 million, 37 million that they've spent to date with regards to these various innovative technology companies that are still on site. They're still processing water and moving it around to try to get it to a point where they've reduced the nitrogen and phosphorus and things like that in the water. And so that $100 million is still there. They are working very closely with us. The new Secretary of DEP and I speak at least 2 or 3 times a week to keep us informed about what the state is doing to be able to move this down a course where we as Manatee County can drive what the closure of Piney Point actually looks like. I will tell you that it's still a struggle. The stacks, the southernmost stack is not in the best shape in the world, but thus far there has been no discharge since April 9th. There has been some stormwater discharge, and in Manatee County, our scientists have independently been taking samples to ensure that what is going off of the site is stormwater. As I mentioned earlier, with regards to the $100 million, we're expecting another $100 million should we need it. I mentioned that we're up to the 253 gallons. Gonna come through here. What's interesting, and I know we've all been to a number of these red tide events, and it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what the science shows, how for some reason red tide came up from the south and red tide has come down from the north. But when you see the update on red tide and when you read this, whether it's God protecting us or what, we've been okay, not wonderful, but we haven't seen what other counties to the south of us have seen. The DEP secretary had the county administrators from the area, like 6 of us, from Charlotte County all the way up to Pasco County on the phone last night to sort of coordinate efforts and see what we need. And DEP continues to commit to reimburse us for cost. And so when you've seen Manatee County getting out there for you and begin to work with the cities to help you with this, they have committed to us. We're working through the agreements with our financial management department to ensure that those costs get reimbursed. But it's going to be interesting. I heard, the comments yesterday at Congressman Buchanan's event talking about the discharge from Lake Okeechobee, into the southern area of Florida. And I've got to ask myself, if we're seeing it move up from the south, it'll be interesting to see how much of it could be attributed to Piney Point. I'm not short of saying, look, it's all contributed to Piney Point, because I want all the money from the feds and I want all the money from the state to give us those resources to move this thing forward. But right now, when you look at where we are with red tide, I think it's a combination that we've been able to get ahead of it, and we really haven't been slammed as hard as our southern neighbors and our northern neighbors. These are the current sampling locations that a number of organizations, including Waterkeepers and the estuaries and Manatee County, to constantly monitor the water quality. With that, any pressing questions on Piney Point?
I just have one.
Yes,
Can
ma'am.
you tell us what, because many people are asking me and I don't know, the deep well?
So after, and this was an interesting process, as you may be aware, a number of years ago, more than a decade ago, Manatee County did drill a test well on HRK property on the Piney Point site. And in talking with the engineers and the contractors, what seemed logical to me is if a test well was there and a test observation well was there, or monitoring well, could we have savings both in time and expense by drilling the well to clean Piney Point up on the Piney Point site? So this gives you an idea of the partnership with Manatee County government and DEP. They were successful in leveraging HRK to get them to deed over a 6.7 acre parcel, which included where the test well was drilled. We became aware through our general counsel's office and their review that there were a number of liens or encumbrances on the property. One is an individual that bought the note on Piney Point. So wisely, and taking our general counsel's advice, We wanted to ensure that we were going to have clear deed and title to the property before we invested, $12 to $15 million in it. In the end, after numerous attempts at negotiating with the lien holder and various demands, our engineers independently came back and basically recommended that the original site that the county commission had approved, which is a 40-acre site just across the street on Buckeye Road, was indeed the better option for the well, regardless of any title, because it would take less fill. It was an ideal location. It would cost about $300,000 more for piping to pipe under the road to move it from Piney Point. And where we settled in the negotiations with the lien holder, the individual wanted $100,000 an acre, so basically close to $700,000 to release a lien on property that if I have anything to do with it, and the county commission, I think he's not going to be able to use it probably anyways. And so I figured, well, okay, so we're at a $400,000 savings by using it on our property where we have it, clear title. I believe, and I don't think any of our public works folks are here, or utilities people are here, but they were about ready to start drilling the monitoring well. And so that's moving forward. At the same time, the various water samples from the various ponds will be analyzed while the well's being drilled to determine what pre-processing needs to take place. In addition to that, we've met with a number of engineering firms that actually close these stacks out. They've actually done it. They're not innovative technology companies. You can go today and look at a stack that they're closing out in Pasadena, Texas, and others that they've worked on. Seem to be probably our best fit with regards to the strategy. The first phase will be bringing the engineers and consultants in to develop a plan and a proposal that would go before DEP and the county commission with price tags, et cetera, and then they would get to work. I think the general theme that I've been hearing from most of the experts is the stacks would be dewatered, there would be a new liner laid, there would be a clay cap, there would be 2 to 3 feet of topsoil, and then sod, and you would basically have a relatively flat surface where you have basically stormwater runoff. And then we could look at possibly recovering usable property around Piney Point, because by that time the state will have invested $100 to $200 million in it. And my point consistently with them has been, my expectation of a closure of Piney Point is we have the highest soccer fields and BMX bike park in Manatee County, and usable property, including the railroad tracks, would revert to Manatee County for industrial development of the port area. And so that's kind of the vision. Everybody seems to be in alignment. There seems to be a willingness in Tallahassee to allow the county commission in Manatee County to drive what closure looks like for us. And so that's kind of where we are with that. Are we going to have a video? And yes, ma'am. Commissioner Servia.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to share quickly what we learned from Moat today at their event, and that is they have a great website called visitbeaches.org that has daily beach conditions along Florida's coast. So for the beach communities who maybe didn't know about that, or for others who are interested, it's a really good site.
Let's see if I have my normal voice. Yes, no?
Hello, I'm Manatee County Administrator Dr. Scott Hopes, and I'd like to deliver the latest update on the red tide situation in our area. While high concentrations of red tide have been detected along Longboat Key, Coquina Beach, and Anna Maria Island by the Florida Wildlife Commission in recent weeks, most of Tampa Bay has seen lower concentrations in the past few days. As of July 29th, no widespread respiratory issues have been reported, and our beaches remain open at this time. Here in Manatee County, our primary focus has been mitigation. We have contracted with a debris removal company, which includes a shrimp boat fleet, to remove debris offshore, in the bay, and intracoastal waterways before it can arrive on our beaches and in our canals. We are approaching and attacking red tide from land, sea, and air. Manatee County government has been deploying daily our drone fleet to survey the area and feed GPS coordinates to the debris removal company and its fleet of vessels which are being used in the cleanup, and to provide officials with aerial monitoring of red tide. Dumpsters have also been deployed at several locations to collect any fish and biomass that do wash ashore, and Manatee County staff are raking our public beaches daily. Additionally, we've ordered 2 specialty work boats that can be used to remove debris from our waterways, including narrower areas like canals. And we are working with our local cities to develop a plan to assist with future cleanup and mitigation. I encourage you to visit mymanatee.org/redtide, where you'll find more information, including a Florida Fish and Wildlife map that is updated daily with current red tide conditions in our area.
All right, each of you have a handout. Whether it's fortunate or unfortunate, when I first started, I had the opportunity to work with our Emergency Operations Center. And so what we've done, although we're not in an emergency, we are approaching red tide in Manatee County as if it were an emergency without it being an emergency. So all that organization that is behind when we activate for a hurricane or the like, that's the way we've been approaching red tide. So we have, it varies whether we do 2, 3, 4 days a week. We have a smaller group of emergency management services that get together. We discuss the challenges of the day and collectively develop those action steps to it. At the end of the week, and those of you in the cities, you have representatives on there when we have the full group, and we get reports from the cities, we get reports from the various departments. And with that, I believe we were able to really get ahead of it and get activated earlier on so that we were prepared. And so to put it in perspective, when we put this report out, I think about a week or so ago, we were only about 0.37 tons, 0.47 tons of biomass going in the landfill. As of yesterday's report, if you look, we've put nearly 10 tons of biomass in the landfill in the past probably 6 to 7 days. So, we're trying to get this stuff up before our tourists and residents, confront it. So I encourage you to read through this. The mayor should be getting it. It should be going out with that sort of multimodal communication, where we send you a text message, we send you an email, and you get a voice call letting you know that we have updates. You're not going to get each one of them, but you should be getting at least 1 or 2 a week on red tide, and as we have additional updates. And again, I just want to say, all of you in the cities, your staff has been incredible to work with. We've got a solid team, and quite frankly, I think it just keeps us constantly prepared to deal with whatever nature may sort of pitch at us. We've been able to come together with some resilience and coordination and strength. So I appreciate the support of all the folks in the municipalities. Any questions on the report? You can look at the pictures. It's pretty telling, and when you look to the south and you look to some of the aerials in the north, you can see, for whatever reason, we've been pretty fortunate to date that we've been able to stay ahead of it. Mayor?
Any questions? Seeing none, you want to go into the next item, which would be scheduling? Your name's on here. Dr. Hopes? Oh, that's all right.
Okay, all right, for the group's consideration, we are looking at, for the 2022 calendar year, February 1st. May 3rd, August 2nd, and November 29th. We opted in November to have it after the elections.
Everybody
So
okay?
again, it's February 1st, May 3rd, August 2nd, and November 29th of 2022.
Okay. Thank you very much. I have no other public comments. We don't have any other public comments? Okay. Comments from any of the officials here today? Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, Ken Schneider, Longboat Key. I just wanted to thank the county and in particular Dr. Hopes and Commissioner Von Ostenridge for helping us out with two things recently. One, most recently in the red tide, coming down and offer your help with cleanup on our beaches, sharing the drone images that you've been doing and otherwise helping with the red tide. Also for your help and cooperation with us in some issues in Longboat Pass. That started out as a lot of noise complaints as it got very busy up there, but it's also signage and issues about the use of the Beer Can Island lagoon there and some others. But this is all part of an effort that I know the county has been taking some big steps to work together with Longboat Key, so we appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Any other closing comments? Oh, yes.
I would like to touch briefly before we all leave, because there were some misrepresentations in the press. We talked about the COVID situation that we've all been dealing with. And for some reason, some of the articles gave the impression that all these cases were at the county administration building, and a majority of the cases are not at the county administration building. They're out at utilities, they're out at the dam, they're in transportation. They're not in the county administration building. There are some, but I just want to let everybody know the majority of the cases we're seeing are out in various departments and locations around the county as far away as Lake Manatee. It's not, it's isolated in a few areas of the administration building, but it's a minority of the cases are in the county administration building downtown. The majority of these cases are, as I said, in other departments that reside outside of our area. And I'd also like to introduce Mr. Bob Reinshuttle, who is the new Deputy County Administrator joining us from Tallahassee, has extensive experience in Washington, Tallahassee, and in other states. And we actually worked together, gosh, I don't know, 20 years ago or something, when I was in Jeb Bush's administration. So welcome, Bob.
Welcome. Mayor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just would like to welcome our new city administrator, who's replacing Carl Callahan after Carl was there for 25 years, and Rob Perry. So we'd like to welcome you, and I think it's his 13th day, and he keeps coming back, so we're happy. But so very good. So welcome, Mr. Perry, and I know the council and obviously the staff and everyone there is very excited to have you. So appreciate it.
Good to see you.
Mayor Chappie.
Madam Chair?
Mayor Chappie, I just wanted to say thank you. You ran a great meeting today, and it's been a few years since I was able to attend a meeting that you were chairing, so it's been a pleasure.
Oh, thank you. It's always interesting, isn't it, Dr. Hopes? And I think the county's just getting started for you, huh? So
Seems so.
you've had some challenges, all of you have, and we appreciate all the hard work that everybody's doing to get us through those last couple of years. It's been tough.
Mayor
Yes.
Chappie, you just made me think of something else. Thank
Go
you
ahead.
for reminding me. I just want to say, as chairman of Manatee County and being able to work with the commissioners so far this year, it's obvious that we all care very much about our municipalities and all of Manatee County, and I should include the school board and on that too. I don't want to leave you out because it's very true. You'd be surprised how many of us watch your meetings. Oh my gosh. But, the thing of it is that, I think I speak for all of us when I say that Our goal this year is to really have a better, closer working relationship with all of the municipalities because we're all in Manatee County and we're all in this together. So, there's not one commissioner that you couldn't contact that would not be there and try to help in whatever way possible. So I just want to make sure everybody knows that because, I've heard a lot from these board members that talk about our cities and the islands and, we're in this together. So thank you for allowing me that.
Absolutely. Thank you. With that, our next COG meeting will be November 2nd at 4 p.m. This meeting is adjourned.